Never. That's safe. Okay, this happened in 2016 when I was a 17-year-old first-year college student in film school. I am now 22, female, name is Julia. I lived alone in my first ever apartment. It was really small, but I was really proud of my independence. I never felt unsafe in this apartment for several reasons. There were multiple gates in the residence that needed to be opened through a code. Only the people who lived there knew. My door had 3 different locks and it was right next to the university, so most people who lived in the neighborhood were college students. Nothing bad had ever happened in the neighborhood before. I've always been very careful with locking the door when I leave my home. I always check twice. I have slight OCD. So this one time, I leave to go to class and lock my door, but for some reason, I couldn't get the key out of the lock. It was completely stuck, so I went to get the caretaker of the building to help me, but he wasn't there and I was getting late for class. So I went to class with the key still in the lock. I took off the keychain first so it's not too noticeable. When I got home, the caretaker was back, so he came to help me and we couldn't get it out for 15 minutes until somehow he did. He told me the lock was damaged, but that I didn't necessarily need to change it if I only locked it once instead of twice. I just said okay, and that was the end of it. I really wasn't worried because of how safe I felt in this building. Fast forward to 2 months later, I was taking out the trash one night around 11 p.m. while on the phone with my sister. I remember telling her that I was taking out the trash, then that I would take a shower afterwards before heading to a party. As I previously said, I always lock the door, even just to take out the trash. Because of my lock being damaged, I only locked it once. When I got back to my apartment, I found the door unlocked, which immediately alarmed me, so I went into the apartment and locked the door immediately with 3 different types of locks. When you walk into my apartment, which is just 215 square feet, you have the main room in front of you and a bathroom door immediately to your left. I had left the bathroom door slightly open, enough so I could see a man in my shower turning his back to me. Naturally, when I saw this, I tried to open the door and leave as fast as possible, except my main lock was damaged for 2 months earlier and I couldn't open it no matter how hard I tried. In this moment, all I could think of was the fact that I had to leave as fast as possible. I jumped out the window without really thinking. I figured it was the only solution, except I lived on the 2nd floor, so I completely smashed my ankles in the landing. I started running in whichever way I could, and when I got a little bit further from the building, I looked back and a man was there at my window, watching me run away. I thought of 2 possible outcomes. Either the man was going to jump and chase me, except I wouldn't get far with my twisted ankles, or he would get scared of the height and be locked in my apartment. Thankfully, he picked option 2. I went to hide in a bush a little further and called the police, who arrived in just 10 minutes because I lived close to the station. They pushed my door open and the man was there just sitting on my couch, holding a kitchen knife, waiting for me to come back. Like he didn't think I would call the police. They arrested the guy and later told me he had already been arrested for sexual assault, rape, attempted kidnapping, and attempted murder. They also told me how everything had happened. Like I said, it was a very friendly neighborhood with mostly college students, so he got inside the building by other people holding the door for him. He then heard me telling my sister I was going to take a shower, which was why he was waiting in a bathroom for me. He crocheted my lock while I was taking out the trash. He apparently noticed me on school campus and followed me to my home several times before succeeding to actually come in. He stayed inside waiting for me because I had recently changed my phone and the previous one was still on the table, so he thought I didn't have a phone with me to call the police. I don't live there anymore, but after that, to get into the building, we all needed identification proving we lived there. Building IDs were created and we had to scan them every time, and it was the only way to go inside the building. Nothing bad happened in the neighborhood after that. It's back to being very peaceful and friendly. A terrifying night. Hey everyone, I've been reading many stories on here, so I thought I'd share mine with people to remind them that even though a place seems safe, you should always be careful. Back in summer 2020, I was 14. I would spend a lot of time with my cousin. We both loved going on walks and would always walk in the neighborhood near her house. One night, I was spending the night over and we decided to go on a walk. It was around 10 p.m. I'd like to precise that the roads weren't well lit, so it was very dark. We were used to doing that, so we weren't scared at all. While we were walking, a white Jeep started driving very close to us. The guy who was driving lowered his window, and there was another guy with him. They both seemed to be around 25 years old. The guys were just weirdly staring at us for like 2 minutes. Then the guy in the passenger seat started asking weird questions like, "Are you girls not scared of the dark?" And after asking this, he drove away. Me and my cousin were relieved, thinking that it was just a joke. But unfortunately, we noticed the Jeep's lights on the road, and it seemed like they were going back and forth before coming to our level again. And this time, it was the guy in the passenger seat who talked. He asked if we wanted a ride home, then said we will take care of you, while smiling. And at this moment, my cousin's eyes opened wide. After that, they drove away again. Me and my cousin were petrified. We couldn't even speak. We were still hearing the Jeep, so we didn't want to run home because we were scared they would follow us home. We hid inside a garden behind trees for 10 minutes. The Jeep came back but fortunately didn't see us. We didn't have our phones because we usually don't take them on walks. When the lights disappeared, we sprinted home. We got there and cried a lot. She told me she got so scared because she noticed that there was a knife and some sort of pills in the back seat. Don't walk in small neighborhoods at night, and never trust a place. Threatened in parking lot. As I'm writing this, it's been a few hours since this happened to me and my friends. Still a bit shaken, but hopefully writing this helps calm me down a bit. For a bit of background, I am currently 19 years old and live in Canada. Being a young Métis male with long hair and some discernibly native features, I've grown used to the occasional needlessly hostile cop or security guard. It's just a part of my life. However, most of the time, those encounters don't escalate very far and have always happened in some other part of the city, so I never thought something like this would happen. It was a little after 1 a.m. and I was hanging out with two of my friends, Joey and Rick. We were hanging out at my house initially. However, my parents had gone to bed and we didn't want to wake them up, so we decided to go out for a drive. We ended up going out to our old high school and chilled in the parking lot while listening to music. It's a relatively safe and well-lit area, so we didn't reckon anything bad would happen. While there, we joined a Discord call with some of our friends who were out of town for university and having a good time when I noticed a big white pickup truck pull into the parking lot. Right off the bat, I knew something was wrong. Most people that come into these parking lots to hang out are around our age, and not many teenagers drive a truck this nice or big. I tapped Joey on the shoulder and tell him we should leave. Before he had time to react, the truck pulls up right behind our car and blocks us in. Inside was a relatively normal-looking white guy, maybe about 30, with some stubble and a Hurley hat on. We see him roll down his window and gestures for us to roll ours down. Not knowing what else to do, Joey complied. The guy then pulled up on our driver's side and identified himself as a cop who just finished his shift and wanted to know what we were doing out this late. Joey explained we were just hanging out listening to music. The guy nodded and said he just wanted to make sure we weren't doing anything bad. Then he drove off. After that, all went back to normal. We didn't think much of it and were relieved that it wasn't anything worse. Joey joined the Discord call again and all was normal. Then maybe 10 minutes later, I realized this guy has been driving back and forth down the street near the parking lot, watching us. Suddenly, he comes flying into the parking lot, turning on his high beams as he slams on the brakes, maybe 2 stalls away from where we are parked on our driver's side. Afterwards, he proceeded to park at an angle, partially blocking us in, then rolling down his window, visibly very angry as he starts yelling at us. My initial reaction was to start filming, but unfortunately my phone had died a few minutes prior. Never let your phone go below 10% when in public. If something happens, you'll be glad you have it on you. So Joey rolls down his window. As he does this, we hear the guy yell, "You guys have to leave. Get the F out of here right now." Joey nods and said something along the lines of, "All good. Can I see your badge?" The man exhaled loudly before reaching down, pulling out his badge and gun, which was pointed right at Joey. Thankfully, he set both items down right after, but it was clearly another very blatant attempt at intimidation. In hindsight, we probably should have asked for his badge number, but the sight of a firearm had us frozen. After this, he went back on his tirade, yelling something along the lines of, "Get the fuck out of here before I call on my duty friends to come fuck you shitheads up." So we tell him we'll leave. Before he goes flying off, he yells something along the lines of, "Don't be a dumbass, quit doing shitty things like this." Needless to say, we ended up leaving after that. We just ended up going back to Joey's house and cooling off a bit before he drove me and Rick home. This is the first time I've had an incident with a cop or security where I genuinely felt as though I was in danger. It's also worth noting that unless otherwise posted, this parking lot is designated as free for public use outside of school hours, and we didn't have the music very loud either, so he had no real reason to ask us to leave in the first place. I'm unsure of whether or not I will be filing a complaint. Would very much like to do one, both to get even and ensure he's unable to do something like this again. However, there is no anonymous way to file a complaint on an officer in my city, and I know that a complaint could escalate the situation into some god-awful legal case, and it may be for the best to simply take the lesson from this situation and move on. Edit. To those wondering, no, we didn't get a good look at his badge nor any numbers, so there is a chance he was impersonating an officer, which is honestly a bit more frightening as you don't carry a fake police badge and a gun with you in Canada without something nefarious in mind. Not all guests are welcome. I have been working for an independent hotel for just over 4 years now. We are the #1 rated hotel in our city and proud of it. I mostly work in housekeeping, but have done some time at the front desk as well. I love my job and have always said that my bosses are great. Now, being a housekeeper, I've seen some things. I've seen a room where someone snuck in their dog, kitten, and chicken. We don't allow pets. I once had a room that I was cleaning as a stayover that had tripods set up around the bed, professional camera equipment cases, an adult-sized pacifier on site, and XL-sized children's diapers. The 2 people that were in that room were in their early 20s. I even had a room once that we had to call the cops on for a raid because we found meth. They found a lot of drugs and guns in that room. But today is the first time I've ever actually felt scared to be in a guest room, as I'm working on a room that's already been vacated. A man in the next room over catches me at my supply card. He's said to be staying for several days and tells me, "You can go ahead and clean my room now. I'm going down for breakfast." Excellent. I love getting my stayovers done early on. It makes things easier for the people working laundry the sooner we get the dirty laundry down to them. So, I pop over into his room, opening it up and propping the door open with a stopper like we always do. The first thing I notice is that he has around 20 prescription bottles lined up on one of the two beds, along with insulin and needles. I'm nosy, I'll admit it, and I wanted to see what he was on. Oddly, it was only 2 different types of medication for all 20 bottles. About 2/3 were a diabetes medication and the rest were a cholesterol medication. That's a little weird that he has so many bottles of the same meds, but whatever. I go to make the bed and see that some of the bedding has been stained and sigh, knowing now I'll have to change all the bedding instead of just being able to turn down the sheets and blanket. So, I leave the room, closing it behind me to go get the linens I need and then head right back to the room. I prop the door open again and head to set the clean linens on the desk chair when I see out of the corner of my eye 2 notes sitting on the TV armoire. It wouldn't mean anything except I caught the word kill scrawled on it. I dropped the linens and took a closer look. What I read on the first note made my blood run cold. You don't have to forgive her. You just can't kill her. You are here to take money and alcohol away from you. Get over having to kill her and you can safely leave. My heart was pounding. My eyes went to the second note, which had just looked like a to-do list at first glance, but in the end made my stomach churn. Spray and wash. Apply for Medicare. Insubordination. The soul is healed by being with children. Bank card follow-up. Inheritance. Savings. Kauai Pop 10,500. Map Montana. There will be a day of reckoning. Did you tell Mom what I said? How did Bev get my address? It was too much. I quickly snapped pictures of them on my phone so I could show my boss why I would not clean his room. I left the room quickly, closing it up behind me. As the door closes, I turn and I see the man just 10 feet away from me, coming back to his room. My heart is in my throat, but I manage to smile and tell him, I need more supplies. I'll be back to your room in a bit. I take off straight for the elevator, having noticed our maintenance man waiting for the slow transport. In a hushed tone, I tell him what I found, and he sees I'm shaken, not a normal state for me. He rides down with me, and I go straight to my boss and tell her that for the first time in all these years, I am not comfortable being in a guest room. I show her the pictures, and her face is still and pale. She goes to the front desk and asks our general manager for a minute of her time and brings her into the office to show her. She agreed this was not a safe situation and took our maintenance man with her to go inform the man he had 1 hour to get his belongings and leave the hotel, and he was not welcome back. I spent a few minutes in the laundry room trying to calm down. Then my boss went back up with me to the floor until the man was officially out of the hotel. I don't know who Bev is. I don't know who the woman is that he didn't feel the need to forgive. But man in room 422, let's never meet again.